Stay FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket. Welcome into the Ticket's basketball postgame show, featuring Derek Pearson and former Husker and 9-year NBA vet, Eric Strickland.
Strickland for three! He's going to go out of here as the Big 8 tournament champion.
On 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Welcome into the Husker Hoops post-game show. I'm Jake Balkovin. Eric Strickland, the Husker Hall of Famer, joining us as well as we break down an exciting game. I wish it could be ended on a little bit better of a note, certainly a possibility, but Nebraska falls to top 15 for 13. Ohio State 87-79 in overtime. Lots to break down, different lineups, different matchups. You have to say the Huskers played pretty well, just a few mistakes down the stretch, so they did not get the win. Ohio State does. Strickland, let's bring you on in and see how you're doing tonight and how you feel the Nebraska Cornhuskers performed on the court tonight despite the loss.
This is the crazy thing about what we do because the basketball part of me, the coach part of me, that aspect of me, when I observe the game, see so much, want dang near throw stuff at the TV at times, and then you got to come here and put a smile on your face. That's the hard dynamic of doing what we do, and so I'm gonna try to, put a positive light, and but also be real and talk about some of the issues. What's scary is it looks eerily familiar to some football stuff. I mean, that we just seem to get excited and it looked like they're going to break through, and then there's an interception, on a game-winning drive, or there's a fumble, and that's what nabbed them tonight. This game should have been over. There's no question this game should have been over, or it should have been a lot more difficult. It shouldn't have went into overtime. We'll probably get into that. I'll dig more into that and what I observed of that part. We did see something that did happen. We saw Kobe Webster got a chance to run the PG, and he didn't do a very good job in the overtime session, but he did do a great job finishing out the game. Probably the last 10 minutes when he came through, he did a wonderful job of finishing out the game, making the right plays and the right decisions. And that's where we'll see, and as we get more into the show, we'll talk more about the difference in the overtime and what made the game the way it is, with an 87-79 win by Ohio State in overtime. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. We'll get more into the freshman sensations that matched up tonight and dig more into what that means as well, and what I would like to see out of that for McGowan's going forward. And then we'll just talk more about the game, the numbers, and so forth and so on.
Yeah, a lot to break down. Once again, Huskers lose 87-79 in overtime, and just a few different things. And we want to hear from you, by the way, on the Starter Hammond text line, 402-464-5685. Taylor, the electrical guy, already chiming in, says another overtime game, another loss for the Huskers. What do you say to that, man? That dude could have iced the game. Free throws still kill this team. And it's kind of funny because Nebraska's free throws really good going up to that, those free throws attempts. They ended up 17 of 23. Of course, that's 74%. But just missed those two. And those were big ones from Lat Mayen there at the end. Do you think that I guess you've been in these situations. How much air does that take out of you when you have the game iced? You got a guy at the line, can get it done, and then you end up going into overtime. Did they lose momentum because of stuff like that, and maybe just kind of the idea that it was there and they just kind of missed it?
And that's why I say it's kind of eerily familiar, right? Because what happens is you're in the game, you you're there, and then it's like, oh no, here we go again. Or oh fudge, we could have closed this out. It's very deflating, and so when you have those deflating moments, you got to buckle in, you got to buckle down, and you've got to settle into what you do well, what you've done well, who's hot, who's not. We've got to do all the little things consistently and solidly. You've got to rebound, you've got to defend, And I think that's the problem that we had in this game. When we got down, there were some points in the game where we had some bad situations because very sloppy early for both teams. Very sloppy early in the game. I did see Verge doing some wonderful things. Didn't shoot the ball well tonight, but still was doing some solid things. They still don't make the right play, and that's where we can also talk about the difference in the game between the two at times. So when you have Ohio State making runs that run up towards double digits, close to it, they didn't really break, far into the double digits or get into that point. It was still pretty close for the most part. You had these little mini runs, and how did they do it? It wasn't just because of what Ohio State was doing in the game. It had a lot to do with what Nebraska wasn't doing. And so they went back to taking bad shots. I can speak for the one that McGowan's took from North Platte on the floor. He took it from North Platte, and that ends up being like a 4 or 6 point swing, because then they come down, hit a couple threes, and now there's a mini run that runs it up to 8. And there's little things like that, that allows a team to make a run, because if you don't do those types of things and you take good quality shots, as they were doing for the most part in this game, shooting, overtime ended up making it worse than it was. It was pretty much, you can look at the box scores and it was pretty close across the board for both teams. I like that they didn't overly shoot threes tonight. But there was a difference, and that was execution. That is the word of the night, execution. So when we got into the overtime period was let me go back. My issue was going to be looking at what they were going to do from the 8-minute mark to the rest of the game. And execution was the word for me. Are they going to execute? Or are they going to defer to the one pass, the overdrive, not make the next play, so forth and so on? And we had some bailout situations. Sometimes you had McGowan's go a little bit too deep, 2-3 people coming over. A shot blocker's coming. Liddell's very good at that. He averages 3 a game. So you have those situations where he ends up missing or taking a fall away, or kind of getting it up to the rim, and Derek Walker bailed him out because he got an offensive rebound put back, right? So that's how they kind of stayed in it. It wasn't that Nebraska was executing the way that they need to execute. They kind of were getting bailed out, a little turnover, the ball gets kind of squirted out, and then they end up making a good play out of that. But that play could have went the other way. And that's what's got Nebraska's got to really understand is they've got to get to the point where execution and doing the right things, making the right plays are a key component, because possessions are so much more important, right? Because they don't have a prowess of offensive rebounding. They did turn them over 17 times, I think, or it was close. What was it, Bach? How many turnovers they had tonight? Oh yeah, almost 16. So they almost turned them over. They turned them over 16 times. So those are extra possessions. That's good. And so they've got to be able to convert those into opportunities. They did some good things, though, man. They really did. They played, they scrapped. But the next segment, we'll talk more about what those 3 issues that they did that cost them this game.
Yeah, you're right, though. There's a lot of different ways to look at this game. Maybe Nebraska's found something a little new at the point guard. We'll see if they continue with that kind of experiment with Kobe Webster. Alonzo Verge didn't play much of the second half, so very interested to see what Fred Hoiberg has to say in the post game about that. The 3-point shooting, as you mentioned, not jacking them up all the time. There was a few bad ones, but 8 of 23. That's good for 35%. And while that's not magnificent for this team, we'll definitely take that coming off the Kennesaw State game. And then just the way that they played EJ Liddell throughout the game, ended up by the end, kind of making a big difference. But 2 out of 14 from the field. That's a guy that averages 20. It took overtime to get him 10. Still put the impact on the game, got that big block late, but it was kind of interesting just the game plan they had and just a lot of good things for Nebraska tonight when you compare it to their other opponents that they've played that are that top type of level. Michigan wasn't even ranked, but completely overwhelmed Nebraska. They're a preseason top 5 team, and they'll probably be in the top 25 again. And then obviously Auburn, that game just got out of hand pretty quickly. Maybe there's a sickness on the team, whatever. But it was a big improvement tonight, going from being overmatched against those top tier quality teams that they've played so far, and really taking Ohio State to the brink and having a chance at victory toward the end. We'll get to more of your questions. Interested in getting some reaction off of Facebook as well as the text line. We'll do that. We got to take a quick break, though. We'll come back here on the Who's Postgame show. That's next on 93.7 The Ticket.
You want to feel important. You want to be a part of something bigger, something that matters and can help change things. You want to feel like you belong. We know. We felt that way too. And that's why we did something about it. We aren't just Army National Guard soldiers. We are normal people just like you. And together, we can make a difference. Take on your legacy. Visit NationalGuard.com to find out more.
Sponsored by the Nebraska Army National Guard. Aired by the Nebraska Broadcasters Association at this station.
My name is Rebecca. I struggled with depression for years. I also smoked. That was my world. Finally, I realized that smoking wasn't helping me. It was making my life worse. So I took control and I quit. Now I'm able to run again and take walks with my grandkids. My tip is there's another world out there, and it's a beautiful place to be.
Call the Nebraska Tobacco Quit Line. 1-800-QUIT-NOW. 1-800-784-8669. Paid for by Tobacco Free Nebraska. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Working at Continental in Lincoln isn't a job, it's a career. And right now, they're hiring for production operators at $21.72 an hour and other select jobs starting at $23.42 an hour, with wages growing up to $27.55 an hour. Continental also has salary jobs available with great benefits, plus medical and prescription costs at very low premiums. Dental, vision, and life insurance are offered at no premium cost to the associates. To learn more or apply, go to continentaljobs.com with keyword Lincoln. Come work at Continental today.
Hey everybody, it's time for today's STEM tip. Want to know how to make your selfies even better? Okay, let's use science. The best time for photos is golden hour. That's the moment right before the sun sets, when the atmosphere scatters blue and violet wavelengths, making perfect, soft, and golden selfie light to show off that beautiful face of yours. Click. Check out Chic and STEM for more inspiration. A message from the Ad Council.
Prescription opioids can be addictive and dangerous.
Opioid pain medication took everything that I had. Nothing mattered more than getting my fix. Knowing that it could have been prevented makes it worse. It just takes one.
Prescription opioids. It only takes a little to lose a lot. Developed by CDC.
Sponsored by the Nebraska Department of Health and Human Services and aired in cooperation with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Mario fue pintor más de 30 años. Cuando me dijo que se le estaban olvidando las cosas, fue difícil. Un día me dijeron que pintara el marco del lado por dentro y pinté el lado de afuera.
Yo le digo a la gente que le diga a su familia lo que está pasando con él.
Si algo se nota diferente, podría ser Alzheimer. Es momento de hablarlo. Visita alz.org/nuestras historias para saber más. Un mensaje de the Alzheimer's Association y the Ad Council.
Action Plumbing, Heating, Air, and Electric always makes safety a top priority for our home and office. In under just 1 hour, their team installed the state-of-the-art air scrubber system directly into our existing HVAC ductwork. This technology purifies the air and reduces exposure to common bacteria and viruses, creating a safer breathing environment for my family. Action delivers honest quality services we can count on. To learn more, visit actionlincoln.com.
Back to the Tickets Basketball Postgame Show, featuring Derek Pearson and former Husker and 9-year NBA vet, Eric Strickland, on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
We We are back with you here on 93.7 The Ticket. This is the Hoops post-game show brought to you by Action Plumbing, Electrical. I mean, they do it all. Get a hold of Action if you need any help around the house. Eric Strickland joining me. Jake Bachman here. A lot to break down in the Nebraska loss tonight. 87-79 to Ohio State, but there's life. There's life in this Husker basketball program, and hopefully they can use momentum, even in a loss, moving forward to build off of this and bring it to Michigan State when they get out there. At least I have a little bit more confidence that they can get some things done here in the new year, but really would have felt a lot better if they did get the win, and lots to run through as we break it down here. One place I wanted to start with you, Strick, is how you felt about the final shot in regulation. Of course, Nebraska had to go full court. They decided to go with Webster there. The putback got blocked for Derek Walker. But did you like at least that execution to get somewhat of a look? You like going to the rim, trying to get a foul maybe at home?
So both of them were good. So I'm not going to say it was a bad play. He did the right thing in getting the ball to the rim, right? Getting the ball to the rim. He drew two people. In all circumstances, most situations, you would want to know that when you draw the other person, at one point you did have a cutting Walker who is having a phenomenal game as he's been having of late. You could have probably found him. I wouldn't have, because the paint in those situations late in the game when it's not a 3-point situation where this game can end on this shot, the paint is going to be full of people. That's where most likely your kick is going to be to the weak side. Usually probably the weak side, not corner. They're going to probably have somebody covering that, so that'll probably be a steal. So it'll be weak side to the wing, and then what you will have is that next pass for the corner. I think they had enough time to do that. If he would have been able to, get deep and then make that real quick, crisp pass there, boom, one more, and you're going to get a good look. But getting it to the rim and getting the shot up allowed Derek Walker great rebounding an option, and those are good. That's a good option too. It just happened there was a better defensive play. He got the block. The big fella got the block. Couldn't remember which one it was. I didn't remember who actually got it. It was kind of, they showed it, but I couldn't really tell who it was. But that was a key component. I will say a great point in the game, because I do want to make some good points with CJ Wilcher coming off the bench. And I want to touch on that, because you saw, other than a couple of threes that he came off that he probably shouldn't have shot, at least let me just say one of them. But for the most part, I think he's getting an understanding of where shots are going to come from, because that's what it looked like for him. It looked like he was ready in every position at every point when the ball came to him to pull the trigger. And it was like he knew this is where the shots are coming from. He'd been working on them, and that's why he was able to have a good night shooting tonight. And if you want to look at the combination, or not the combination, but you want to look at the matchup between Branham and McGowan's, right? This is what I want to see from Bryce. I want to see because this isn't the only time somebody at his position that he was guarding went nuts. I think I want to say it maybe with Auburn, but I want to be able to see him take a challenge and say, I'm going to shut my guy down, or, I'm going to have a solid night. Because to me, watching as an observer and a former player, Branham looked like he was a pro. He looked like he was under control. He looked like it was, smooth to him, easy to him. He was taking his time coming off the screens. He was getting to the spot. Oh, they're not here. Pop. Early. It was like every shot he was taking nothing was forced. Nothing he took was forced. He looked like a Kawhi Leonard to me tonight. Just really just effortless in the way that he did. That's the way I want to see Bryce handle it. It seemed to me like Bryce was pressing. It was hard. It was difficult at times. There was some great moves, some great penetrations to the basket at times, but I would like to see him not only take the challenge, but I would also like to see him play in a similar manner, because he has the potential to have that type of efficiency. Because
does he need more help around him? I think that somewhat helped Branham. Obviously, for the early threes, he got a few going, and then in Nebraska, I don't know if they didn't adjust or if they wanted to continue with the game plan, which was make Branham, who by the way came in with a career high 11, maybe make somebody other than EJ Liddell beat you. And so that opened up Branham a little bit, but it's not just the threes. If you just kind of got lost in his threes, and he did great there, 6 of 10 from beyond the arc, but he was 13 of 19 overall. So, what is that, 7 of 9 outside of that? And like you said, a lot of those very easy. He looked really good tonight. And for Bryce, it kind of took a while to get going. He didn't score his first point until about 3 minutes to go in the first half. And then, at that point, he kind of realized he can get by his defender, and that was Branham, I think, at the time. And so he started attacking, getting to the line. It was good to see him get back to that. But I don't know. I mean, Kobe Webster certainly ran the point well, like you said, in the second half. Do you think that there's a future with that offense in him running the point? And if there is, where does that leave Verge? Because he's still too talented to have him sitting on the bench for too long.
Yeah, I would agree, but that's what I saw was the difference. I saw him run a great show as the PG from the 10-minute mark. It was in overtime where I was like, they looked lost. They looked like they didn't know who to go to, what to run, what they were, what set they were in. It looked like it was just bright, kind of bright. Give it to Bryce on the wing, give it up to the top, and maybe he can get a shot off, and they didn't. Now, let's get into that. So at the end of this is why they lost this game. You have the free throw situation. We have people on the text line as well as on the Facebook line talking about that. Is this a coach problem, or is this a player problem? Well, you got to know this is what you dream for, right? You come to play big time college ball or play in the NBA or whatever. You want those moments. I mean, I remember myself I would play games with myself as if the time had run down. I attacked the basket. This is all imaginary stuff. I mean, I wasn't playing. I mean, we didn't have 5-on-5. It was like 1 on you. You know what I mean? You just got to go and you have to imagine and work on aspects of your game. And I would do that, man. I would like 5, 4, boom, draw the contact. Oh, free throw line. You got to knock them down, baby. This is the game. Everybody dreams of that situation. So you have the free throw issue, right? Then you have a bad no communication. So you're up 5. All you have to do is play good D, solid D, force them to shoot, and do the little things that we talked about. Scrap, rebound. Nebraska's guards do way too much watching when the shots go up. There was one instance, and this is not in particular what we're speaking about. I want to explain it so the listeners know. There was an instance where, and this helped. This was a bucket too that helped them to kind of get back into the game. Ohio State. There was a drive to the basket or a shot, and Key attacks the rim against Walker for the extra rebound, and Tamanaga was like in no man's land. Right. That's where your fundamentals got to kick in. You gotta secure rebound. Everybody, 5 people have got to be to the paint. You have Tamanaga just kind of in no man's land. Keys attacking. You check your guy. This should be taught. I'm not gonna speak. They talk about coach. I don't know if that's what they're doing. I'm not able to be in the practices. But your guard, you check. Is my guy coming? No. Find the next one. So that's when you go help Key on Key. Derek Walker, you put 2 bodies on that cat. He's not going to be able to jump, or he's going to jump over one of you too, right? So therefore, you secure the rebound. That's the small stuff that gets games lost, right? Okay, so you've got bad communication because there should have been a switch call between C.J. Wilcher and Kobe Webster. Wheeler's left butt naked on the side for a 3. There's no way that should happen. Up 5, there's no way that should happen. You've got to communicate that. So then you got that. You've got the extra rebound. And then you've got and then the free throws, man.
Yeah.
That's why they lost the game. This game should have been closed out. They probably should have won by 7 or 8, because if you go to the free throw line, you make your free throw lines, you secure your rebounds, they got to foul you. So it's 28 seconds left in the game. That's how you win, period.
Yeah, it was definitely within Nebraska's hands. I think I saw the win percentage at one point was up to 88%. Nebraska certainly under the final minute had that 5-point lead. It looked like we were all going to be celebrating the new year and new life pumped into this program. But instead, Nebraska falls to 6-8, 0-3 in conference play with the 87-79 loss. Let's run through some of the numbers for the Huskers tonight. Led in the points column by Bryce McGowan's 18 points tonight, 5 rebounds, 2 assists as well. But he was 6 of 19 from the field. So he had the green light. The next highest shot there from Nebraska, as far as attempts goes, for Derek Walker was 10. So McGowan's kind of had the green light to go for it tonight. But their next leading scorer was Derek Walker with those 10 shots, 6 of them made. Of course, he enters this game close to 80% field goal percentage. He did have 15 points, 10 rebounds, 3 of those offensive, and assists, 4 steals. He was doing a good job getting in passing lanes. Just an excellent night from Derek Walker fighting against those bigs down low for Ohio State. CJ Wilcher, as we mentioned earlier, 13 points off the bench, 5 for 8 from the floor, 3 of 4 from 3 points. And then a kind of a bounced attack from there. 8 points from Lat Mayen, 7 rebounds for him as well. 0 of 4 from the 3-point line. So it continues to struggle. It's kind of funny because real quick, we'll get back to the stats. He kind of led him there at the end, but a lot of it was just kind of bounce in the regulation, I should say, kind of just bouncing to him. I mean, he made a great cut to get a dunk, but his corner 3 was ugly, and somehow it just kind of went right back to Derek Walker to get it.
The top of the backboard. It was crazy.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa. Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting. I mean, he's known as a 3-point specialist, but I mean, his numbers keep dropping. So it's going to be interesting to see if he can get back to that. 8 points for Kobe Webster, who was kind of running the show at point guard. 2 assists, 3 rebounds for him as well. 7 points from Tamanaga, 1 of 4 from beyond the arc there. Alonzo Verge not playing as many minutes tonight. 6 points, 4 assists for the Big Ten's leader in assists. Just 1 of 6 from the field. But I'm trying to run down his minutes there. 22 minutes tonight from Alonzo Verge, so that's a big talking point we'll have to get into as well. Trying to see if anybody else. Eduardo Andre also came in tonight, played sparingly, 4 points, 2 steals, and 3 rebounds. Pretty good for the minutes that he had, and more notably, 2 fouls there. We always have to track the fouls for Eduardo Andre, but there's nights where he looks outmatched, and he didn't necessarily look that tonight. In his limited minutes, they didn't lean on him too much. Derek Walker had to fight for most of the night. But again, I do want to get more into the decision, especially down the stretch and in overtime, where they were kind of discombobulated not to go to Alonzo Verge. Really kind of missing in the second half. And part of that is the way that Kobe Webster was running the show. But I mean, he continues to be so interesting because you can say he's not a true point guard. He leads the Big Ten in assists per game. And then, you know, he's your best ball, dribbler by far, ball handler. And I think they got to find some way to get him in. And even early on, they had him and Webster in. They kind of, between him and Webster, they had Lakes, Andre, and Wilcher in with those guys, and that lineup was kind of sparked a comeback to take a 16-14 lead midway through the first quarter. They tried it out. They tried that 2-point guard lineup basically with Webster and Verge. It kind of worked at times, but at some point Verge got lost on the bench and never returned.
So part of that has to do with this. You don't know when the things get tight. Sometimes what Verge, and now we have a lot of history of games, right? Mm-hmm. When things get tight or you go down a few points, Verge has a tendency to try to take over, and then so there'll be over dribble, overshoot, bad shot. Not bad shot. What I mean is a bad shot for Verge is driving to the basket and there's 3 people there, like why he shot 1 for 6 tonight, because a lot of those shots were, trying to drive fouls or doing that stuff, and they weren't giving it to him. So when that's not happening, you've got to be able to make the next play. He did. He made some great assists, but so it's not knowing what you're going to get. Are you going to get the takeover verge or are you going to get the drop a dime when it needs to be drop verge? And so I can understand, because in the last 10 minutes, you had Kobe making the right plays, driving to the basket, boom, to that man for the dunk, boom, making sure they were getting shots. And the key was in overtime, they looked lost. Ohio State comes in and they say, I don't care if he's 2 for 14. Nebraska could have did the same thing. I don't care if Liddell is 2 for 14. We are going inside to our best player. What are you going to do about it? And they freaking took step into threes, and that's how they pushed the lead. They kick it in. You going to go with your game plan, double team. He found the guy at the top and the guy at the wing, different players, and they knocked it down. That's what that was the game. Nebraska could have did. That's what blew me off, because I'm like, what are we running? It was just a hodgepodge of cutting, and they looked better in the regular game session than they did in overtime. So I was trying to figure that out. And Walker, I would have hoped to have been a little bit more aggressive when he had a couple touches. I love those looks, him getting it at the free throw line extended or at the free throw line. I like him getting the touch inside. He made great plays and he got buckets. I like his shot numbers. He gets it. He should get 10 plus, 10 to 15 shots a game. If he doesn't, it's a disservice to Nebraska and their opportunities to win the game.
Yeah, and I think tonight, though, you have to give credit to Nebraska, too. The offense kind of opened up a little bit to allow him to get some of those more dunks, more, good cuts. The old Doc Sadler weave we saw brought back, which led to a Derek Walker dunk as Ohio State defense kind of fell asleep there. So it was kind of fun to see them run some more sets, I think. Even the one that you were talking about where Wilcher forced it, it was a play that was kind of drawn up for him. So you kind of could see with the way he was running, he wasn't going to get open, but he was going to shoot. So I kind of like to see at least them kind of drawing some things up. But I think that overtime session, it was pretty clear what Ohio State was doing, which was, get it down to Liddell, draw the double team, kick it out for the open three. And they were shooting, obviously. They ended up 16 of 34 from beyond the arc, which is 47%. They don't usually shoot that many shots, but that's kind of Nebraska's game plan, is to dare them to do it. And finally, they said, you dared us too many times, and they started hitting them in overtime. Again, you just kind of wonder about getting into the players' heads when they're I even got kind of worried after that first three in the overtime, because that seems to happen every time Nebraska gets into overtime, is they give up a three or something that kind of deflates them right out of the gate. Is that, with the opportunity to win there in the final minute, and then you open up the overtime with the three, and then they hit the second one. And at that point, Nebraska, like you said, Nebraska's not running anything too great to combat that. They even went to the 2-3 zone for the final three that they hit. But they were still able to find, of course, if zone defense does allow some open shots too. So that's not necessarily going to stop the three-point attempt there coming from Ohio State. So, some of it you just got to credit Ohio State. The game plan was to not let EJ Liddell beat you. He kind of did there by the end with his passing ability. But it kind of is what it is. Nebraska did a good job against him all game. You dared the others to beat you. But Barnum had a career day, 35 points, 6 of 10 from beyond the arc. And we talk about Nebraska, by the way, while we're on the beyond the arc sort of discussion. 8 of 23. I mentioned that earlier. That's pretty solid. 5 of 7 from Wilcher and Webster combined. So the rest of the team, obviously 3 of 16. So you kind of wonder, is it fixed? Maybe, back-to-back games where it's more promising. Obviously, Kennesaw State, I think they hit somewhere around 15 of them, different level of competition, 8 tonight. But there were some more open looks. Do you think that Nebraska's offense is finding something a little bit as they grow as a team? Obviously, still trying to experiment with some of those pieces, but it does look a little bit better. At times, certainly gets stuck with some bad shots and some isolation type of attempts. But I think the offense is getting into a little bit more of a groove, and that's something you can take away that's a little promising moving forward for Nebraska, as they're just 3 games deep in the Big Ten stretch. We knew this was a team that was going to have to learn to play together. I think that they're starting to learn a little bit better.
Well, I think they are. They're starting to kind of understand where their roles are, and that's why they've got to still figure out where their shots are coming from within the offensive sets so that they can make sure that they're making those shots as they present themselves to them. That's what Ohio State did. It's like Branham knew. He knew where his shots was coming from. It ain't like he's been a perennial scorer. He saw that what they were doing to Liddell, and he figured he's getting the looks, and I need to, kind of make my mark on this game, and he did. That's where I would like to see the challenge being taken by Bryce, because I know his brother would have taken it. I mean, that's the one thing I can count on. I know Trey would have been like, yo, this ain't happening, and it just didn't seem like I saw that kind of fire out of Bryce from that particular look. But he's still young, man. He's gonna figure it out. And I think if he wants to be a good pro, he's really got to figure that part out. I mean, because you can't have Kevin Durant, you can't have Kevin Durant and Jaylen Brown and I could run down the list. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Tatum.
yeah.
You can't go into a game saying, these cats are going to get 20 to 30. You know what I mean? Or Devin Booker and so forth. I mean, what you gonna do? You gotta defend them, baby. You know what I'm saying? You're not gonna come in and they're gonna think you're gonna get the same shot attempts. That's not you, my guy. That's not you. Not yet. Let me see you a few more years. You're not that yet. So you're gonna have to defend them. That's where I'm hoping he picks up while he's still here. So they need to run sets, bro. Especially, that's what Ohio State did. They just ran sets. They ran sets and they executed. And that goes back to what I said: 8-minute march from this point on, to include overtime. Who's gonna execute? And it was Ohio State tonight.
Well, it's interesting, too. This was not really a fast break game. Nebraska only 5 fast break points on the night. I think Ohio State 5 as well. So this was kind of a half court game. And given that, I guess you would say Nebraska did pretty well, considering how frustrated we've been with their half court sets throughout the year. But I think it's coming along. It loses. They get it lost at times. They get and they have some players that like to attack. Sometimes it works, right? I mean, when Bryce McGowan's got going at the end of the second half, he was drawing fouls or he was getting a hoop at the rim. So at times they can get it working. Obviously, at other times it can get a guy like Alonzo Verge benched if he kind of over penetrates and does it in too many consecutive possessions. But hopefully things are getting better for Nebraska. And I think this is an indication that they were. And it's also good to note, because you mentioned Trey McGowan's earlier, I was kind of worried that there is this thing, maybe just this thought around the team that obviously they need Trey McGowan's. And when he gets back, he'll be a big spark. But tonight's performance is an indication that they're not waiting for that. They're not relying on that. They're moving forward, maybe with the idea, like you should, that he might not come back to 100% strength, and that you're going to have to fight out your role. Everybody's going to have to find out what it is that they can do that certain night. And sometimes it's just going to the hot hand. Tonight, CJ Wilcher started the second half because he was the hot guy off the bench. Tominaga at other nights, if he's feeling it, is going to get a little bit more of that, the playing time, especially down the clutch. So I think they're developing and finding these roles. They're growing. Like you said, some of the younger players are learning how to play at this level. Did you see one thing that we've talked about all year and that you've mentioned is Bryce McGowan's still kind of playing straight up too much? Did you see that again tonight?
Of course. And then, I mean, you can see the difference between the way Branham plays and Bryce, and why Branham was able to get to the spot physically, take whatever, I think one good example of it was when he drove to the basket, took contact with his left shoulder and goes up, and he banked it, but it was a floater bank. That's Bryce has that capabilities, but he's not able to take that contact. And he at certain points when he gets the ball in the perimeter, he's not a threat. And so he's either driving, because then he'll dribble the ball, try to create space, and then he'll try to drop. As a defender, and that's why, Branham was able to stay in front of him a lot, make it very difficult for him throughout a lot of the game. is because of those tendencies. I mean, a defensive guy or scouting report will pick up tendencies. He catches the ball, he stands up, he's looking. He's not a threat. He catches it. If he's down, he's looking. You can still do that same thing from that same position, but you're a threat because I could fake a pass and still drive, right? You see, but if I'm here, I'm passing. It's just a fundamental thing, and you see that sometimes from some perennial guys that are just used to AAU, just being free flow and probably playing some prep, different things like that. So we hopefully somebody will pick up on that as a fundamental flaw and help him to be able to make that adjustment so he can be better, because he definitely has the capabilities. It's not that Branham is super significantly more gifted than Bryce is. It's just that he is a lot more fundamental, definitely, the way he plays.
Yeah,
there's nothing extra. Everything is, I'm here to hear what you're going to do about it. And it's very simple.
And I think Chris Holtmann, I mean, credit to him, his team's always kind of pretty fundamental. They don't usually overwhelm you with their talent and kind of, just kind of like the way that Auburn did earlier in the season. But they've always put together a pretty darn good team that's in the top 20 by season's end. And they've got talent, don't get me wrong, but they rarely overwhelm you and a lot of times just play really good fundamental basketball. And that's what they did again tonight, as well as riding Branham, the hot hand, 35 points tonight for the freshman whose previous career high was 11. We got to take a quick break. We'll finish things out. We'll round things out.
Real quick, Bob, what you just said, you saw that from Sotos. When Sotos came in, he made 2 fundamental plays, 2 assists. That's a point I just wanted to make real quick.
Yeah,
that is down the board from guys. 8 minutes to play. He was fundamental and made an impact.
Yeah, very good point. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back and round this thing out. Look ahead to Nebraska's next matchup against Michigan State. Also, maybe a little bit of a preview of tomorrow's show. Strick and I have got a show starting tomorrow. It starts at 3. Strick will join at 4. It'll be a lot of fun. So we'll do all that next here on the Hoops Postgame Show on 93.7 The Ticket.
They say one great thing leads to another, and that's especially true when you visit a Great Clips salon. When you sit down for a haircut with the skilled and friendly stylist at one of our thousands of convenient Great Clips locations, they'll not only make your hair look great, they'll make you feel great too. And that's something you can't help but share with the world. Download our online check-in app today and opt in to get a ready next text when you're up next. Great Clips. It's going to be great.
93.7 The Ticket is proud to provide listeners with daily opportunities to win contests and prizes on our airwaves, and would like to take this opportunity to remind you of a couple rules. All participants must be 21 or older and wait 30 days after winning a prize before participating in another contest. Once you win, you have 30 days to pick up your prize at the KNTK Studios, 330 North 48th Street in Lincoln, or your prize will be forfeited. Thank you for participating in our contest, and thank you for listening to 93.7 The Ticket.
Watch out! You got me!
The galaxy is safe once again.
In the pretend universe, kids play with pretend guns. In the real world, it's up to us to make sure they don't get their hands on a real gun. If you have a gun in the house, keep it locked, unloaded, and stored separately from ammunition. Safe gun storage saves lives. Learn how to make your home safer at endfamilyfire.org. That's endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by End Family Fire, Brady, and the Ad Council.
Brokers Insurance Agency is currently hiring full-time and part-time insurance professionals. They will provide you with the training and education to obtain your insurance licenses. Brokers Insurance Agency takes pride in educating clients with the best insurance program to help their clients meet their specific goals. If you're a hardworking, motivated person and would like to discuss a great career opportunity with Brokers Insurance Agency, please call Ken Richards at 402-420-5353 or email service@brokersinsuranceagencyne.com. The team at Brokers Insurance Agency is looking forward to helping you get started with your insurance career.
Our public school teachers want every child to learn, grow, and succeed. I'm Jenny Benson, president of the NSEA. School's in session, and it's key to build a partnership with your child's teacher. Visit with them and ask for an overview of your child's strengths and areas for growth. Ask for recommendations for activities and opportunities so you can work with your child to harness their strengths and address their challenges.
Sponsored by the Nebraska State Education Association, aired by the Nebraska Broadcasters Association in this station.
Hey, it's me, your cell phone.
We need to talk about something serious. I know you love me. I know you like using me wherever you are, but I feel like this isn't working out when you're driving. I know you may think that it's possible to focus both on me and the road, but I just don't feel the same way. I think we should spend time away from each other when you're driving. It's for the best.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Action Plumbing, Heating, Air, and Electric always makes safety a top priority for our home and office. In under just 1 hour, their team installed the state-of-the-art air scrubber system directly into our existing HVAC ductwork. This technology purifies the air and reduces exposure to common bacteria and viruses, creating a safer breathing environment for my family. Action delivers honest quality services we can count on. To learn more, visit actionlincoln.com.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com. On the internet. KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket. Back to the Tickets Basketball Postgame Show. Featuring Derek Pearson and former Husker and 9-year NBA vet, Eric Strickland on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Wrapping things up here on the Hoops Post-Game Show with myself, Jake Balkovin, and Eric Strickland, brought to you by Action Plumbing and Electric. And we're rounding out the Nebraska game tonight. Of course, Nebraska not quite getting the win. Almost had it. Had to go to overtime. 87-79 victory for Ohio State tonight. Nebraska falls to 6-8 and 0-3 in conference play. They have Michigan State next, top 10 Michigan State, who got a 73-67 win over Northwestern. So they improved to 3-0 in the conference. So kind of the top and the bottom of the conference there. But at least Nebraska, if you're a fan, you feel a little bit better about that matchup after watching tonight's game against Ohio State. Yeah, they came up short, but they did have a chance to win. And maybe that doesn't make you feel better after watching the last football season and in some of these games so far. But in any case, Nebraska does fall to 6-8 with the loss tonight. Ohio State didn't play for 3 weeks going into this game. Kind of had some games canceled, postponed because of some illnesses on the team. Did you see any rust? Did you see any signs of rust out there? Do you think that was possibly why Nebraska stayed in the game at least early?
I just think, I mean, I think the sloppy play is what happens because it doesn't matter how much, Bach, you practice and how hard you go after each other. Your scout team, second, usually the bottom half of your second team isn't going to be at the caliber, usually. That's not always the case, as your first units or your first 6 or 7, right? Usually they may even put just kind of work on rotational stuff. You just can't simulate that. You can't simulate the speed of what a game is going to be like. So obviously getting reacclimated to the speed, catching back up on certain things. And then once you kind of figure it out, that's probably where some of the turnovers come from and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, let's run through some of these numbers real quick, the team numbers, before we get out of here. As we mentioned, the free throw line, Nebraska, 17 of 23. That's good for 74%. But, of course, 2 key ones missed there from Lat Mayen at the end. Ohio State on the other end, 78%, 11 of 14 from the free throw line. Some of these other numbers, offensive rebounds tonight, 13 for Ohio State, 11 for Nebraska. That's actually an improvement, so that looks pretty solid. Overall, the rebounding, 42 rebounds for Ohio State, Nebraska, 34 rebounds. Obviously, Nebraska not winning that battle, but Ohio State, that's a tough, good rebounding team. So the margin not being quite as big as maybe we expected tonight, but 14 rebounds alone from Key down in the paint. So he was a beast on the boards tonight. 17 assists for Ohio State, Nebraska 13. 9 steals, though, for the Huskers compared to Ohio State's 4. And part of what kept Nebraska in this game is the turnover margin. There's 16 turnovers from Ohio State and 8 from Nebraska. So again, maybe some of that you could say maybe it's part of Ohio State's rust, but a lot of it was Nebraska kind of getting into those passing lanes and being disruptive. But you have to be especially impressed, I suppose, with the fact that Nebraska only had 8 turnovers in this ball game, and maybe that's another indicator of Alonzo Verge that offense, it seems to be a little bit more turnover prone. Alonzo Verge has had, I think, averaged over the last 5 games. Shouldn't say average, has had at least 5 turnovers in those games just by himself. So maybe that's part of the reason why they decided to go with Webster. As long as we're talking about the offense moving, sometimes it's about scoring points, but sometimes it's just about not turning the ball over.
Yeah, because like I said, if you don't have an offensive rebounding prowess, that's what I'm saying. Key, Liddell, those guys, they can pound the boards a little bit. Other teams have length or whatever, and they can pound the boards. That's other than maybe Derek Walker, there's really not. Maybe Wilhelm, but there's really not anybody. I think Eduardo Audrey has some potential, but there's really not nobody that's a crasher for the team on the offensive side, right? So those possessions are important, and you can't just be free willy and turning the ball over. Now, this is I'm seeing a lot of questions with regards to coaching and so forth and so on. It looked like the play that was drawn up to inbound the ball. This is something that I would probably make an issue with, right? Lat Man is shooting 68% from the free throw line. At that point, there's only 3, maybe 4 people, and at that point, Verge is in the game.
Right. By far your best ball handler. Yeah.
Maybe Lat's not in the game because we know the situation is they've got to foul. I'm having my best guys at that particular point, and then I'd sub Lat Man in, in case you got to play some defense and you may need some size. But at that particular instance, Bryce McGowan has either got to touch the ball, Alonzo Verge has got to touch the ball, Tamanaga has got to touch the ball, and maybe Kobe Webster. So between those 4 players, whatever I'm running has to be a cycle with them, and Lat Man shouldn't be that far down the floor catching that ball in that situation. He did have a sprinter, so if his job was to catch it, boom, unload to the guy running on the opposite side of the court, he didn't do that. He held on to the ball and got trapped, and then you get fouled, right? Yeah. So I can't say I'm not going to sit here and question Coach Hoiberg as far as his coaching decisions, but I would say that could be a potential coaching situation at that sequence of events, right? Because you've got to have your best people touching the ball in the free throw situations. That's important.
Well, and that just that's what makes the Verge situation fascinating to me, is because he is by far your best ball handler. If you're going to get fouled, you're going to have the kind of the full court press. I would think to have him out there unless unless you just don't want to send the message to him that you want to go to him there, or it's kind of fascinating, that decision to keep him benched at that point. Maybe
he's your third best free throw shooter, bro.
Yeah, and maybe it's just that they would think that maybe after not playing him that long that he wouldn't be, maybe his head's not in the game or be down. But I mean, you got to trust in a guy that's played in college basketball that long, that he could be ready to go in there and win the game, ice the game. That was winning time right there.
Absolutely.
So it's kind of frustrating to see, how that was drawn up. I believe Tommy Naga kind of got it in the corner and then found Lat. So it wasn't drawn up all that well to begin with, because you don't want to get trapped in the corner to begin with either. So
that part. Because then you call the timeout too. So to me, it looked like it was just a little, Bryce kind of on a little slash cut, and then he went out. But at that point, it didn't seem like it was much different as far as something that was drawn up, because it looked like Tamanaga went to the corner the time before that too. So it looked like it was in the same spot, just he happened to get there and get it that time. So, oh well.
And then sometimes we focus too much on this because, again, sometimes the starters and the finishers are different. But do you expect to see a difference in the starting lineup with, it's hard to say, because when Wilcher gets going, you say, well, you want that punch off the bench, or Webster, you want that punch off the bench. But maybe, obviously, with Verge being benched much of that time, could we see a change at the point guard? Could we see both those guys starting? And then I guess, you'd look at either Tamanaga or Lat Man probably pulling out of the starting lineup. or do you think this team's still kind of finding those roles, and it's still just kind of based on the night who's going to be the go-to guy?
Yeah, I think it's still going to be based on the night, because at the end of the day, and it's also going to depend on what type of Alonzo Verge you're going to get, being that this did happen. Are you going to get a pouting, lackluster? Because they still need what he does and what he does well. He can get to the basket. He reminds me of Rajon Rondo, very, very similar as far as the way he plays the game. But Rajon definitely takes care of the ball a lot better, but he's a pro and he's been doing it a long time. So he understands what his role is in that specific instance. But I don't think that you're going to see that kind of change. I don't even think you're going to see a Tamanaga Wilcher change. I think it's going to end up being in the last 10 minutes of a game, who's rolling and what we need. I still think they need to draw up some more execution things. Yes, you can run that, get that all through the game. But when you need, just take it from Ohio State's playbook. Take it from Michigan's playbook. Take it from NC State's playbook. How they, yes, you were able to kind of stay in the game. You should have won that game too, but nonetheless, there's execution. And you have to know what you're running, because you can get discombobulated, or you can get, just in a frenzy. And that's what it looked like. It just looked like it was a frenzy. It was like, what are we doing? Nobody knew where the shot was coming from. You had no clue. And that's where, Ohio State said, we're going to our best player. What you going to do about it? Oh, you're still doing that. Okay, bam. That's the next play. Oh, you cutting that one quick. Bam, that's the next play there. Then they shut off the corner. You're ready to shoot. You at least know it's coming. Be ready. And I don't think Nebraska has that right now in any form or fashion.
Well, and obviously coming up just short, Nebraska had a chance to get momentum, break that, I think now 18 game losing streak against top 25 opponents. But you could say luckily or maybe unluckily for them, they've got a couple chances here within the next month. It's a brutal schedule. The next 3 out of 4 on the road. The one game at home will be against Illinois and Kofi Coburn. So that's a pretty big battle test. But this next game at number 10, Michigan State, the end of that 4-game stretch I was talking about at number 3, Purdue. So it's going to be some tough games for Nebraska moving forward. But I think tonight we can at least believe that the team is getting better, is trying some different things, and is going to have a chance at some of these games as they competed with a top 15 team tonight. The first time we kind of seen that against that level of competition from the Huskers. Once again, wanted to remind you guys, tomorrow, brand new lineup for 93.7 The Ticket. Early break starts at from 6 to 8, and that's as normal. A great show that we've had 5 years running, so we keep it going. Old school moves from 8 to 11. Then we'll have the captains on from 11 to 2, and then myself and Strick we'll have a show from 3 to 6. Of course, in between there, 2 to 3, the happy hour with Nick and Rico. And then Ticket weeknights. We've already heard going to be a nice guest with Nicole Griffith on tomorrow night as well. So, Strick, looking forward to the show tomorrow. Thanks for staying up with us tonight.
Yeah, man. Looking forward to it, Bach. And, hopefully you guys will tune in. Hopefully we'll have a better outcome coming up in this next game. The gauntlet doesn't stop. It's not going to get any easier going forward from this point. Michigan State's a very good team.
Yeah, sure is not, but hopefully Nebraska can get over the edge. I still think they're going to get an upset or two this year. But that'll wrap it up. Thanks to you guys for staying up with us tonight, and tune in. Let's again, early break starting at 6. Have a good night.
Action